Bello, it's necessary for you to be sworn. Will you take an oath on the Bible or an affirmation?
Whichever.
Well, it's the matter for you.
Yep, Bible.
Sorry?
Yeah, that's fine.
What's fine?
The Bible.
The Bible. Would you take the Bible in your hand, please? And repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission.
That the evidence I shall give in this Royal Commission.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Yes, thank you. Take a seat, please. Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Bello, will you state your full name?
Joseph Bello.
Do you have before you a copy of your statement dated 10 July 2015?
Yes, I do.
Are there any amendments or corrections you wish to make to the statement?
Not that I know of. It's as long as it says I submitted it, that's fine. Yeah.
Bello, I wonder if you could come closer to the microphone, but also could you speak a bit louder, because that microphone is the resource for a lot of people who aren't actually in this room who may wish to listen to you. Right?
Certainly.
Maybe
yes.
just lift it up, twist it up a bit too. That might help. Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Do you confirm that your statement is true and correct, Mr. Bello?
Yes.
I tender the statement.
It will become Exhibit 29-5.
Mr. Bello, you were baptized as a Jehovah's Witness in 1973, is that right?
Yes.
And you were appointed as an elder in 1991?
Yes.
And since then you have served in that capacity in the Kingsley congregation?
Yes.
And how big is that congregation?
About 90 publishers or so at the moment.
In paragraph 2 of your statement, and perhaps we can scroll down, you deal with the subject of reporting or how elders respond to complaints of child sexual abuse. And you'll see what you say at the foot of that page and then over the next page. And you say there that you report immediately to the branch office, which then advises of any requirements of mandatory disclosure to relevant authorities. Is that right?
Yes.
And if you are not advised by the branch office to report to a secular authority, such as the police, then I take it you don't do so.
I wouldn't unless somebody brought to my attention that there was some legal requirement.
Yeah. So if there's a legal requirement to report and that is brought to your attention, you'll report.
If there's a legal requirement, we always try to do what the law says, definitely.
And if there's not a legal requirement, then you don't report?
Not unless we were advised to do so.
And by advised to do so, you mean advised by the branch?
Yes.
So are there no circumstances then in which you would report a matter to the police if you hadn't been advised by the branch to do so?
Look, I don't know what situation would come up and how it would come up. If I had a question about it, I'd ask the branch.
Now, if we look at 2.2, the matter is then handled internally. Is it by, if a complaint is made that is of child sexual abuse, in the manner you set out in 2.2? In other words, 2 elders are directed to investigate the complaint. If substantiated, a judicial committee of 3 elders is appointed, and so on. And then also in 2.4, where a person has been found guilty of child sexual abuse, that's guilty by the judicial committee, is it? That you're referring to?
Yes.
The elders privately counsel him as to appropriate behaviour with children, such as not spending time with them without any adult present, not inviting them to his home, not engaging in displays of affection, and so on. Now, if we go to 4.1, You see there, you say that the case involving BCB is the only one concerning child sexual abuse in which I have been involved.
Yes.
Since you wrote the statement, have you thought of any others you've been involved in, Mr. Bello?
No.
Our records suggest that there are 2 others that you were involved in. You're going to be shown their names. The idea is that you don't read the names out, and nor will I. It's to be an aid to your memory. When you see those names, does that help you remember 2 other cases?
One name here I recall as something that happened before the Kingsley congregation was formed. I was part of it. I don't even know the person. The other case was a situation of someone who hadn't been attending for a long, long time, and it was handled by the police, and I had no involvement.
So, dealing with the first case, which I understand you to say was before the Kingsley congregation was formed, but was that a case of child sexual abuse?
From what I've been told, yes, I don't know anything much about it.
Yeah. So, and you didn't have any involvement in it at all, you say?
None at all.
Right, and the second case was someone who had been in the congregation but had been away from the congregation for some time, is that right?
Yes, that's right. And events happened, and I heard about them after they'd been dealt with by the police and everything. So I wasn't involved at all.
Events happened outside of the congregation. Now, in the case of BCB, in your paragraph 5, which is on the screen, we can just scroll down to the substantive part of the paragraph. Further down. Next page. 5.1. You say sometime in 2012, but you can't remember the exact date, BCB asked the elders to visit her to discuss an issue, and you say you and David Wood visited her and her husband at her home, and then you carry on in that paragraph to set out your involvement. Now, you then reported that involvement to the branch office, is that right?
I didn't do it personally. Brother David Wood and another elder phoned the branch.
Right, and what was reported to you as to what the response was from the branch?
I can't remember exactly, but the gist of it was to provide whatever help we can, to get whatever information BCB can provide us, and to provide that to the branch.
Now, can I show you tab 71? Now, do you recognize this letter, Mr. Bello? It's
Yes, I do.
18 December 2012, and it's from you to the service desk.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain the circumstances in which this letter came about? Were you writing to the service desk about BCB's case in 2012?
When we went to see BCB, she provided us with details of what had happened. And then after contacting the branch, we asked BCB if she would be happy to put that into some written form that we could send to the branch. And after a couple of weeks, she provided that to us, and we wrote a covering letter, this covering letter, and sent that along with what was provided to us to the branch.
And by that time, Mr. Neal had been deceased for quite some time.
I really don't know when he died. I don't know. I believe he had died already, but I don't know.
At the time that you wrote the letter, did you know that he had died?
I really can't remember if BCB was able to tell us what had happened or not. Could be, but I can't remember.
And what was the purpose, in your understanding, of making this report to the branch about these events that had occurred many years before?
Well, we did it on the wording that BCB gave us, which is she wanted to make sure the branch had these details in case someone else had had similar experiences with the same brother.
Did you have any expectation as to what the branch might do with this information?
No, I didn't know. I presumed that they would have other details from when it was handled, and that would help them to work things out.
So they may be able to match the information with some other information they already have.
Mm.
And then, if we look at the next tab, 72, 2 years later, December 2014, you had cause to write again to the branch. Do you recognize this letter? Perhaps we can scroll down for you.
I don't remember writing that letter, but I probably read it and signed it.
Well, if you look at the end of the second page, you'll see that you're quite right in that regard. So who wrote this letter, do you remember?
This would have been written by David Wood and Robert Boardman.
What makes you conclude that?
Because I know that they were handling the matter after I wasn't involved in it anymore.
Well, your name is here and you've signed the letter. In what sense were you not involved in it anymore?
I wasn't actively trying to help BCB or give support at that time.
Now, you'll see on the first page of the letter, if we can go back to the paragraph number 2, you'll see there it's recorded that the alleged perpetrator is Brother Neil, now deceased. So at the time you wrote that letter, you of course knew that he was deceased.
Yes, at that time.
And what was your understanding of the writing of that letter?
My understanding...
As to its purpose?
Yes. My understanding was that we had further details provided by BCB, and from recollection there were a lot more details in terms of names, dates, things like that. So it was providing further information as it became available.
If we go over the page to paragraph 6, you'll see it says in about July 2014, Brother Bello paid a friendly visit to both BCC and BCB at their home. And it was only at this time that BCB made mention that she was considering reporting the matter to the Royal Commission on Child Abuse and seeking compensation. So, firstly, you were, of course, involved in this matter by visiting BCB and her husband and discussing the matter, not so?
Yes.
And perhaps you can tell us just what occurred in relation to the possibility of the matter being reported to the Royal Commission?
Well, that matter came up earlier when BCB's husband and I were out in the ministry, and then afterwards, when we went back to the car, we sat in the car and we were having an informal conversation about how BCB was feeling and coping, etc. And her husband said that they were thinking of taking the matter to the Royal Commission, and I asked the question. I said, but what would that accomplish? Sorry, my mouth is dry. Other than dragging Jehovah's name through the mud. So I guess it might be a reference to that. And then BCB's husband told me what he felt would be accomplished. he said a measure of closure and also maybe financial compensation. And I said I could see that point about the closure. I also asked, I didn't know that the Royal Commission was about financial compensation. And he said, yes, we've looked into it. And that was it.
So you'll understand how in you asking the question, what would that achieve other than dragging the name of Jehovah through the mud? That would be understood as a discouragement to go to the Royal Commission.
It might be understood that way, but that's not how it was meant. It was an informal conversation. I asked the question, what would it accomplish? Yes, I was thinking out loud, and thinking back on it, I shouldn't have said the rest of the sentence.
And I take it within your faith, Jehovah is considered as a loving God.
Definitely.
And would Jehovah then not be more concerned about the victim than his own name?
Jehovah would be concerned about the victim, but Jehovah is concerned about his own name too. That's what the scriptures tell us.
Well, would his name not withstand public knowledge of dreadful things wrongly done by someone professing to follow him?
I don't think that was my point. My point was simply to ask the question, what will be accomplished? And yes, there was some thinking aloud, and that's all.
Can you understand how, by putting that question in that way, it contributes towards feelings of guilt that BCB has in bringing this matter to the Royal Commission?
I was talking to her husband, and looking back, I probably would have worded that different. But at the time, that's how it came out.
Can we look at your statement of 5.13, paragraph 5.13? That's where you explain what you've just you explain that the statement as you've explained it now in the witness box, and you say in the last sentence, let me start before that, you say, I was wrong to say it. In other words, ask that question about dragging Jehovah's name through the mud, and I never would want to discourage someone going to the authorities with a complaint of child sexual abuse. And this is also against the direction we receive as elders from the branch. I take it that the direction you're referring to is that if people want to report to the authorities, they should not be discouraged from doing so.
That's right.
You don't mean to say that there's a direction from the branch to positively encourage people to go to the authorities?
I just mean whatever the letter says. I can't remember the exact wording, but whatever the letter says.
Well, we're looking now at your statement, not at the letter.
Yes.
And your statement says, this goes against the direction we receive as elders from the branch. Now, I'm just seeking to understand what it is that you're saying there. You've agreed that it's a reference to a direction not to discourage people from taking reports or reporting to the police, right?
That is the direction.
And I'm seeking to understand you're not saying there's any direction to positively encourage people to go to the authorities.
I don't believe the letter says that, so I'm not saying that. I'm saying whatever the letter says.
We're not talking about a letter, we're talking about your evidence. There's no direction to your knowledge to positively encourage people complaining of sexual abuse to go to the authorities. Is that right?
The direction is to encourage them to do whatever they feel is best, whether that be to report it or not report it, apart from whatever legal requirements there are, which of course we would follow.
Do you know of any case where a victim of a crime has been encouraged to take a matter to the police?
No, but then I don't know the opposite either.
And do you know of any case where an elder has reported a crime that has been reported to him, to the police?
No, I don't, and I don't know the opposite either. Sorry, I don't mean to answer them the wrong way. I'm just saying it's a hypothetical situation. I don't know.
Those are my questions, John.
Can we just look at document 77? Are you familiar with this document?
It would appear to be one of our articles in the magazines.
Yes. You're familiar with it?
I can't say that I'm very familiar with it. I'm sure I've read it in the past, but it's not as if I can remember the details, no.
I mean, do we have a hard copy of it? You're welcome to look at it, but it seems to be a discussion of the trauma that a victim of incest might suffer.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.